A very good morning and welcome to UBC TV. Good morning, Uganda Extra. My name is Jagenda Semakula on yet another day. It is the 11th of January in this year 2022, and now this is day 2 of the schools reopening. We saw parents and children, teachers, school proprietors, and of course all the stakeholders yesterday maneuvering and doing their best to get back to school after quite a very long time, but that's where we are. Welcome and thank you so much for choosing to join us and of course to be with us yet again today. Now we'll not talk about the reopening of schools because we are in it and we just again struggling and managing to see how we get through it and how we of course also manage. Now the latest coming from the Ministry of Health also indicates that we in just 24 hours we also registered the biggest number of the COVID deaths, which is 18. Now this continues to worry us and I think we need to do our best as we get our children back to school and of course also get ready for the full reopening of the economy. We still need to manage the pandemic, which still is with us. Now, away from all that, welcome to our topic of conversational discussion this morning, where we'll be, where I am hosting this Honorable Hedwig Musasi, Minister of State for General Duties in the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. You're welcome, Honorable Musasi.
Thank you and good morning to all the viewers of UBC.
I am happy to have you. Happy New Year and thank you so much for allowing me to be with us here today.
Happy New Year too, and Happy New Year to everyone out there who is viewing us. Okay. A while ago, we were talking health, and everything was, we needed to hear from the scientists, the doctors, the Ministry of Health, the Minister of Health, and a number of people. Now, when we talk about the economy, of course, we also get to the experts. Now, because you're here with us this morning, let's start with a general picture of the economy and what it means to us when we say the economy is poised to reopen fully. Thank you. To put that into perspective, I think we need to ask ourselves, what is our economy? In terms of the size, in terms of the performance, in terms of the underlying factors which bring it forward or which push it behind. And to contextualize this, you cannot do away with the prevailing circumstances which you have just been talking about, and that is the COVID shock. We have had a nasty experience in the past 2 years, and looking at our economy before the past 2 years, our economy was on a steady progress. We were registering good growth figures in terms of GDP of over 6%, and we were poised to registering a growth of about 6.5% in the medium term. But now here comes the shock of COVID around March 2020. And what did this mean to our economy? Our economy had to definitely slow down, but nonetheless, Ugandan economy remained resilient in the circumstances. And in that year alone, some economies went into negatives, but ours remained positive with a growth of 3%. And now we see it rebounding. Okay. And going forward, we are optimistic that our economy will come back to our normal growth.
So what's economic growth? And of course you talk about these figures and say Uganda's growth is expected to be between maybe 3.5% to 4.04 the fiscal year 2022. But what are these when we talk about economic growth? Because we listen to the president, we listen to the ministers, we listen to the economists, the experts talk about these figures. But what do you make of 3%, 4%, 5.0%, 5.5%? The economy is growing at 6%. What are these?
If I can break it down for a lay person out there to understand what I mean. If you talk about growth, you are looking at incomes of the people. Have there been changes in the incomes of the people? If the question is yes, this is growth. Are there jobs being created? If the answer is yes, that is part of growth. You look at the manufacturing, for instance. How many factories have come in the economy in a given reporting year? If the number of factories is growing, is increasing, this is growth, etc., etc. This is what we mean when we talk about growth of the economy.
Okay, and I think that's where we are now. We had a slump, of course we had issues when COVID came into the country, and we're now seeing a rebound. Given the conditions and the prevailing situation as it is, what are these projections, and what is the trajectory like of economic growth? Because if we were growing at, you said 6%?
In excess of 6%.
In excess of 6%.
Before, before March 2020, when COVID hit us. That was financial year 1920. Yes, our growth was above 6%.
Okay, now it also came in at a time when we just launched our third national development plan. We were just starting on that other decade or so, implementing the SDGs and quite a number of things that were actually starting that particular year when all this came. We had a promise that by 2020 we would have, or we would actually have gotten into lower middle income status. Now, before we could actually achieve that, COVID came in with all its disruptions. What are these promises now that the economy can actually revamp and get back to where it is, even when COVID has disrupted so much stuff? But not all economies in the world have actually staggered. There are those that have still remained and are still soaring.
I think what is important to note is that COVID has not taken away planning frameworks. We still do things in accordance with the National Development Plan. The current one under implementation is National Development Plan 3, and also we have the Vision 2040, and also the strategic directives that keep coming from Cabinet and His Excellency the President. So COVID has not changed this, but what has changed is that, for instance, the National Development Plan 3 did not envisage COVID.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
And
we rolled it out before COVID comes.
Yes. Yes.
And COVID finds us on the way.
Yes. And now that COVID is around us, amid these other shocks, which I believe we shall be talking about later in this conversation, is that we need to come back to the drawing board and define our planning, define our parameters within the context of COVID. And that's where we are going. We think the National Development Plan should be revised, should be reviewed to take care of the prevailing circumstances under the situation we find ourselves in. Okay,
now as we brace ourselves for the 5th Economic Growth Forum, we just would love to know, hear from you, what have been some of the successes that we've registered for the previous 4 Economic Growth Forums that we've had?
The Economic Growth Forum is a platform that brings together various stakeholders and institutions. Academia, the development partners, or what many people know as donors, the civil society,
we the media,
you the media, and many other stakeholders. They come together to see how best they can change things in as far as economic management is concerned. It started in 2016-17 financial year. This is going to be the 5th Economic Growth Forum. And before the Economic Growth Forum situation, our economy had stagnated at around a growth rate of 4.3%. That was between 2011 and 2016. Now when the forum started, the key question was, what can we do? And a number of proposals were suggested, which proposals have resulted into significant growth, which I was talking about, of about 6.3% by financial year 2019-20 before COVID hit us. Now we are back. Yes, we have a resilient economy. We have an economy which we think we should rebound. We have an economy which we think, we want to build an economy which we think should respond to the challenges we have faced in this season. And there is need for these stakeholders to sit down and come up and answer the question of what do you think can be done. We have sectors which have stagnated, and some of them have slowed down completely as a result of the situation we have found ourselves in. We have sectors which have been performing. The question is, how do we bring back these sectors which have stagnated to normality? How do we bring them back to where they were before COVID came? And how do we sustain growth in the sectors which have survived this shock? And how do we prevent them from the future shocks which may come? So this one cannot be just a one-man's decision. You need engagements, you need sharing of ideas, you need conversations, discussions, etc., etc. And this is why the Economic Growth Forum can be.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, Assistant Minister for Finance, General Duties from the Ministry of Finance and Finance Planning and Economic Development. Now, before COVID crept into the country to disrupt and to disorganize us, and we've seen, of course, its impact that can't be overemphasized. But COVID just came in to make a very bad situation worse. We already had droughts here. We had drought. We had famine in some parts of the country. We had floods. We also had increased water levels in our lakes, which was also to some disadvantage. Of course, the landslide and quite a number of those. Then, of course, COVID came in. COVID didn't spare this sick person already. You are sick. You have diabetes. You have flu. You have all these. And COVID, of course, comes in. COVID won't say you already have these problems. So I won't come in. I just want to know where our priorities are now as a country, and of course when we get into this EGF that is the 5th of its kind. We want to know where your priorities are for economic recovery and to brace ourselves or to safeguard ourselves for the next economic shocks that might come to us in the future.
I think how I can put it is that our objectives and goals as a country in as far as economic management is concerned is to achieve inclusive growth. We want to see an economy that is able to transform the 39% households who are still in subsistence. Yes, echida chonka. Okukolerenda yonka. Who are still in subsistence economy into a market economy. so that they can be able to earn some income for themselves. We want to see an economy that responds to the shocks we have talked about. And this cannot be done when, for instance, our infrastructure is poor. We must build a strong base for our infrastructure. We must look at the human capital aspects of our population. Because if we are talking about job creation, do we have the required skills? The training we give to our children must address the skills gap, which we continue to see in our communities. Our people cannot function when they are in poor health conditions. We want to see an economy that is able to address the health challenges within our societies through enhancing and strengthening our healthcare systems, etc., etc. So this is basically the economy we would want to build. And I'm sure the Economic Growth Forum will center around these discussions. And we cannot forget the environment. We must promote climatic change. Climatic change is around us, and the mitigation measures must be promoted. The carbon emissions, some of them are a threat. Renewable energy, we must see it take shape. And these are the discussions around the environment, discussions around all these other things I have talked about. I expect them to come up in the forum, okay, which is going to take place on that.
Okay, I'll read something here, which is the EGF's theme of the year, which talks about economic resilience, recovery, and resurgent growth. What informed the decision for having this particular theme for this EGF?
There are a number of needs. One is the need to sustain the economy where it is. Because we are saying our economy has continued to be resilient despite the shocks. There is also the need to address the challenges our economy has faced. In terms of the financial position, for example, of government, we have seen a drop in our revenue targets by close to 2,000 billion, year in, year out, since the pandemic hit us. We have seen increased borrowing. Before COVID, we were at 41% of GDP. Now we are at 46.7. This, and by end of this year, we expect to cross the 50% mark.
Threshold.
Yes. And then in the medium term, we expect to be somewhere around 54%. These are the challenges that must be addressed if we are to achieve a resilient economy and an economy that is able to respond to the needs of our population. For instance, we must close the gap that exists in our revenue performance. We must come back to the levels where we were before COVID. And to achieve this, there are a number of strategies, there are a number of policies which we must review if we are to attain the intended objective. We must bring back our debt to the manageable levels. The question of how must be answered, and the policies and the strategies to answer this question. I expect them. I believe we with this theme, all these, the house, how do we do this? We have this challenge. How do we overcome it? The house will be answered and will help us, first of all, in planning. I have said earlier, we think and we are moving towards reviewing our NDP 3. We are in the process of budgeting for the next financial year, 2022-2023, and also other subsequent years in the medium term. All these proposals and ideas and strategies which will come out of this forum and these engagements will inform the decisions we shall make going forward. This is why we said the theme should be around
economic growth and resilience.
Yes.
Okay. One of the things that Ugandans keep talking about, wherever we are on the streets and everywhere, is the rate at which we borrow. And the questions that keep coming in are, can we stop borrowing? Can we live without borrowing? Is there a way that we can actually avoid borrowing? And secondly, you just said it here that by the end of the year we shall have hit the 50% mark. Where does that leave our economy? And when we get there, won't we be very susceptible to any bad things that can happen to us when we've gone past the 50% mark?
I think, how can I start? Can we live without borrowing?
And live on what is there?
Absolutely no.
We can't stop borrowing?
No.
We cannot stop borrowing?
No. Our economy is not strong enough
to sustain itself.
Support itself without borrowing. The question now comes, what should we borrow for?
Our priorities for borrowing.
Our priorities for borrowing. That is where the debate should be. And that's where we are taking the debate. If you are borrowing to invest, to do public investment, in the areas which generate return, then continue borrowing. If you are borrowing to reservice the previous debt, there is a risk there.
You dig a pit, then you dig another to cover this and leave another here.
You borrow from pocket A to pocket B.
Then pocket A demands.
You borrow to refinance an existing obligation. Then there is a risk. We have to ask ourselves a number of questions. If you are borrowing to finance a social good, it's good, yes, it's all right, but the question which comes is which kind of borrowing should I make? Because I will come to it later, not all the loans are at the same price. Some have concessional terms, very cheap, and others have commercial terms, very expensive. So if you have a social goods, if we are to finance them through borrowing, we should look more into concessional terms.
For the social goods, because those do not have returns on investment.
The returns on investment take time to be realized. But if you build a road, for example, from Maraba to Kampala, if you build a railway from, assuming we were to build a railway from
Maraba to Kasese,
you are carrying goods. Here you have return on investment. And countries which have developed, actually in sub-Saharan Africa, most of the countries which we are proud of have higher rates of borrowing than us. But the question has been, What have they used their borrowed funds for? They have invested in infrastructure largely, electricity, roads, etc., etc. And these stimulate industrialization, facilitate trade, and in so doing, they end up making better money than what they have borrowed. But that does not mean that our debt, much as I've talked about the figures of this year, of next year, and in the medium term, I want to also say that our debt levels are sustainable. They are not threatening at all.
What does that mean, debt levels are sustainable?
Meaning that we are able to repay all the debts we have acquired as and when they fall due. And we are still able to be allowed to borrow more as and when we need it.
So, Honorable Minister, just a few weeks or months ago, before he ended last year, the conversation, the discussion was, we've borrowed so much that China is actually taking our airport. China is taking over Civil Aviation Authority, taking over our airport because of borrowing. You are informing us that even when we've borrowed enough, or we've borrowed all this much, we still have the capacity to pay back our loans. Uganda need assurance that none of our assets will actually be auctioned or taken away from us because of the dates. This happens. Our thinking is, when I put my phone as collateral in a microfinance somewhere and I fail to pay the debt, then of course this is what naturally goes. They come to my house and pick the fridge, the tables, the chairs, and everything. Assure us that none of our assets will actually go to these people who have given us their monies.
I think government gave a statement in that regard. But that not being the case, I am a politician, yes, with over 10 years standing in Parliament. But I don't believe that we should politicize everything. Whoever originated that issue of the airport had political propaganda intentions, and that's why I wouldn't want to spend my morning
talking about propaganda.
Okay. I want to focus on the facts.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Musasizi. We'll just take a break and return. When we return, we'll continue the conversation on the economic growth forum that is the 5th of its kind, of course. And with me in studios is the Honorable Henry Musasizi, Minister of State for General Duties in the office, in the ministry, I beg your pardon, Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. We'll take a break and return shortly.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
You know, you could just buy a new smartphone from anywhere in Uganda. Dial *175 *94# to activate their 100% double data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles for 3 months. Better yet, you automatically receive free 1 GB valid for 30 days. You are hooked already, aren't you? Enjoy a 100% double data bonus from Airtel. Buy a smartphone from anywhere in Uganda and insert an Airtel SIM card. Dial *175 *94# to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Dial *175# and select your preferred bundle to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Mohamed Salah, Naby Keita, Kalidou Koulibaly, Sadio Mane, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. When you hear these names, you may think you're probably watching the English Premier League or UEFA Champions League, but it's none of those. It's the 2021 Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations from 9th January to February 6th, 2022. All these global elite football stars will be in Cameroon to grace the continent's most prestigious sporting event. 52 games, 24 countries, 1 continent, 1 trophy, 1 station, live, free and exclusive to your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda. Everyone deserves more this festive season, which is why MTN Momo is giving you more thank you points on your MTN Momo withdrawals at agent locations. Get 150 thank you points for every 1,000 shillings spent in withdrawal fees. More thank you points means you get more free minutes, more free MBs, more free SMSs, and more free Momo Pay shopping. To use your thank you points, dial *141#.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Well, thank you so much and welcome back from that short break. We continue the conversation here, talk about the Economic Growth Recovery, Economic Growth Forum, and of course with me in studios is the Honourable Minister Msasizi. I'm a State Minister for General Duties in the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and of course it is where we are talking about the economic resilience recovery, and of course all these necessities that we think will make our economy get back to its feet and where we were the pre-COVID. We've had 2 years of disruption, but nonetheless, government is doing its best. We are implementing NDP3. Honorable Minister, you talked about that. We're implementing NDP3, and we just want to think that what do the outcomes of this economic forum influence on the planning and the budgeting, of course, because what informs our budgeting and our planning and everything is now the NDP3 that we have. How do we think that the outcomes of this forum will impact on the planning and of course the budgeting in the next cycles?
Yes, it is true. Our budgeting framework is informed by largely NDP3 and also the manifesto of the ruling government. In this case, the National government. Yes, and also the strategic directives that cabinet keeps giving from time to time. And the discussions, I think I had talked about it. The discussions will not depart much from the existing parameters set out in the NDP3. But the question is, if the NDP3 was formulated in 2019-20 under a certain objective, what about now, 2022, if this objective has changed or the nitty-gritties of implementation have changed, or the prevailing circumstances require that some new ideas be incorporated. Definitely, we cannot disregard this, and this is why we are calling various stakeholders, including government departments and agencies, to say, look, here we are, and here is where we want to go. How do you think we should move? And the outcome of this forum, among many other forums and audiences which we continue to interface with as Ministry of Finance, will inform decisions in budgeting going forward.
Okay.
That does not mean that we are departing from the plan, but we are expounding and strengthening the plan to respond to the needs.
Okay. Honorable Minister, have you heard about this conversation in public space about our priorities I think of money, hearing from your senior minister, the Honorable Matia Kasaija. I love him when he says there is a lot of money. This country has money. He normally assures us that there is money, and the conversation has always been we do not have good priorities. Now the bad priorities is actually not coming from the minister, but now that comes from we the Semakolas who say yes, assurances that there is a lot of money, but the challenge is we do not have and we don't have good priorities. Let's talk about that, Honorable Minister. Our priorities, good priorities.
I think they are, how I can qualify it, is that Uganda has a number of opportunities out there. We have so many untapped opportunities, and they exist in a number of economic sectors, largely in agriculture, the small scale manufacturing. We have so many innovators. There are so many innovations we can make around IT, etc., etc. So these are a lot of opportunities out there which are not tapped. And you have just said your what? Your priorities as a citizen of this country. What we are doing, we are saying, can we build an economy that responds to my priorities and to your priorities? And that's why you see us making certain interventions. For instance, Emyoga, as one of our interventions, addresses the 18 enterprises. Whoever has an idea around the 18 enterprises.
And I think they've even grown, they've grown more than 18.
Yes.
They've increased more.
Initially
they were 18.
They were 18. So whoever has an idea around this and is lacking funding, is government addressing the challenge of capital? The question is yes, through a Myoga intervention. We have initiated the parish development model. The parish development model is going to largely address the financing challenges around our people in the parish who are involved in agriculture, household farming, who have ideas around their households but are lacking capital, who have ideas but they are lacking knowledge to improve their ideas, who have produced but they are lacking market, among many others. You have our people in towns like Kampala here and elsewhere in the urban authorities, those who live in towns. Some people are very small, but they are doing something. They're employing 5 people, and because of one reason or the other, they do not have enough capital. When they go to our commercial banks, the prime lending rate now is 18% in our commercial banks. If the bank adds in other things, the loan settles at 20%, 22%, sometimes 25% or so. And this makes it expensive for people to access capital. So government is saying, can we have a mechanism where our small and medium enterprises can access finance at a cheap cost? And this is why we have introduced, for instance, the 200 billion which is going to be lent out to SMEs at 10%. And we are providing, depending on the nature of business, we are providing a grace period of 2 or 3 years. So this is how we can make our strategies respond to the needs of you and me. Yes.
Very briefly, Honorable Minister, even before the EGF, we know that the government must have had some strategies for economic recovery to support the economy. Could you please share with us, for the benefit of our viewers, what some of these strategies were that you were undertaking as a ministry?
I must say the EGF is building on existing strategies and policies. It's looking at the existing policies with a view of enhancing them, strengthening them, to make them better respond to the needs of our economy. And government has been having a number of interventions and strategies. For instance, in the UDB, we have continued to capitalize UDB. Now the UDB stands at over $1 trillion in terms of capital base. Yes. And the most recent one is the stimulus package of 550 billion, which we sent to UDB to stimulate the economy, having had the shocks as a result of COVID. This money is being utilized by people who are in manufacturing, people who are in agro-processing, people who are in human capital development, especially those who are training in skills. And this intervention is really helping the big people. I've already talked about Emyoga. I don't need to go deeper into it. I've already talked about the parish model, which we are going for. I have already, what else there, among and many other interventions we have made. And above all, that is not in disregard of the existing interventions we make through our budget. Like we have, for instance, money for the youth, which has been going to the communities for quite some time now. We have money for the women and other special interest groups. So all these interventions have helped, and we believe will continue to help our economy.
Just before we get ready to conclude this conversation, the other thing that you also talked about here is borrowing for development and doing these things, and you talked about building a railway, building a road from Malaba maybe to Kampala. We now have the Entebbe Expressway. We know that the Jinja Express is coming. We talk about I think it was Sega PG, we talk about Chibuye, Busega, we talk about all these now. Exactly, within the cities here, and we're seeing all this very good development coming on. However, the conversation now on social media is starting 8th, which was last Saturday, we started paying for that toll road on Entebbe Kampala Expressway, and people are saying you borrowed. It is taxpayers' money, and you're actually charging us to use our own facilities in our own country, and people are looking at it as some sort of appetite and all the things. It is only Honorable Msasa who can afford. If Ratoro cannot afford, then you are conditioning Ratoro to some harsh conditions of traffic jam also, because they can't afford driving on these roads. Why would we even get to a level of paying for our own public facilities that the government has built or put up for us, Honorable Minister?
The government, it is the law of government to provide public goods, public services to the citizenry free of charge. It is the law of the citizenry to pay taxes. Once you pay your taxes, you are entitled.
You demand for a good.
You demand
for that public good.
For a public good. And when people say, why should we be charged for the public good? I think they are right. But what public good are they talking about? Have we denied access for people to go to Entebbe for free?
No, there's an alternative.
The answer is no.
There is an alternative.
But what we are saying, if you can afford and you don't want to be held much in traffic because of the kind of business you are doing, and you can afford, here is an option for you.
Which comes at a cost.
Which comes at a cost. It is like we have public schools up to university, from
primary school,
primary school up to university. At the same time, we have private.
Also from primary 1 to university.
Yes. For those who can not afford, they go to
public schools.
Public schools. For those who can afford,
they take them where they want.
They take them where they want. The same scenario, and this is not new. The question we are asking ourselves, how do we develop our public infrastructure without stressing our economy, without sending our economy into more debts, further debts? One of the ways is to find all mechanisms of getting revenue from people. We are going into a PPP arrangement on a number of projects where government enters into an arrangement with the private sector, private party, to provide a service. And this service comes at a cost. And in most cases, this cost is affordable. For instance, we are talking about Entebbe Express Highway. I paid 90,000 for a month. I bought a card for my car for a month.
60 trips.
Yes. When people out there hear me talk about that, they say, you are a minister, everything is free. No. I am also required to pay for my ticket. But when I break it down, this is like 1,500
for trip.
500 for a trip.
300,000 a day.
Sorry?
Sorry, 3,000 a day.
A day.
For back and forth.
And what do I gain? I come from my home in Sisa, where I live. I am able to get to Kampala in 40 minutes. And I'm able to start my daily business.
Without hassle.
Without hassle. 7:30, I am in office. If I'm to process something for a benefit, for business, it becomes easier for me to make appointments. And this is why we are saying, if you know you have an engagement that cannot wait, can we provide for you an option? If I am to use the common Kajasi Namasuba,
1.5 hours.
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yes, before the express highway, we were using 2 hours.
Yes.
So therefore, I don't think there is really much to urge about.
Okay.
This is what I call politics, negative talk. Let's avoid negative energy.
Okay.
Let's really look at all the ways how we can together build this country for ourselves.
Let's be patriotic. Yes. Finally, Honorable Minister, your parting shots, talk to the public, your conclusive remarks on the EGF and what needs to be done going forward in 1.5 minutes. I
think on the EGF, I want to encourage the public to use our platforms, our media platforms we have put in place to get interested in the discussions that will be going on in the Economic Growth Forum, because they are important for our planning, they are important for our decision making, they are important to help us understand where our economy is going in the future. And last message, we are fully opening up the economy. We have started with schools. You can see the excitement out there about the opening of schools. In the coming weeks, we shall be opening entertainment and other. The economy, want to see the economy fully open. But this comes with caution that first, we must continue observing the SOPs because COVID is still around us. Okay. Number two is that we must vaccinate. We must appreciate vaccination, and whoever out there is not vaccinated, go and vaccinate so that we boost our immunity to be able to respond to the threats of COVID, which is still around us. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Honorable Minister Henry Msasizi, for having allowed to join us here on Good Morning Uganda Extra today. And of course, to just wish you all the best for the Economic Growth Forum, the fifth of its kind. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. We want to thank you and to wish you the very best. And of course, to all our viewers, thank you for being part of the conversation. To my producer, thank you too for being a very good producer. And here is where it is. The forum is on the 13th. The forum is on the 13th. That's just a day after tomorrow. It's a day after tomorrow at the Serena Hotel in Kampala. So you're invited to be part of that. I think virtually you will follow. It will be live on UBC TV here, but of course on the subsequent social media platforms for the Ministry of Finance, UBC TV, all the other social media channels. We will have that there, and of course you can also just follow the hashtag, which is the Economic Growth at 22, and I think that's what it is. Hashtag Economic Growth 22. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, and everybody. We will see you then on the 13th of January. That's just a day after tomorrow for the EGF, the fifth of its kind. My name is Jagan Asemakola Ziksoka, wishing all the best for God and my country as we continue inspiring Uganda. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
how to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
everywhere you go. MTN.
Mohamed Salah, Naby Keita, Kalidou Koulibaly, Sadio Mane, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. When you hear these names, you may think you're probably watching the English Premier League or UEFA Champions League, but it's none of those. It's the 2021 Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations from 9th January to February 6th, 2022. All these global elite football stars will be in Cameroon to grace the continent's most prestigious sporting event. 52 games, 24 countries, one continent, one trophy, one station, live, free and exclusive to your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Patriotism is a feeling of love, devotion, and the willingness to sacrifice for one's country.
I say no to corruption because I put my country first. I choose peace over violence because I put my country first.
I love Uganda. I serve Uganda. I sacrifice for Uganda. I'm loyal to Uganda. I love myself.
Be patriotic, Uganda first. This message is brought to you by the National Secretariat for Patriotism Co Uganda, Office of the President.
You know, you could just buy a new smartphone from anywhere in Uganda. Dial *175 *94# to activate a 100% double data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles for 3 months. Better yet, you automatically receive free 1 GB valid for 30 days. You are hooked already, aren't you? Enjoy 100% double data bonus from Airtel. Buy a smartphone from anywhere in Uganda and insert an Airtel SIM card. Dial star 175 star 94 hash to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles. Valid for 3 months. Dial star 175 hash and select your preferred bundle to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles. Valid for 3 months. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Everyone deserves more this festive season, which is why MTN Momo is giving you more thank you points on your MTN Momo withdrawals at agent locations. Get 150 thank you points for every 1,000 shillings spent in withdrawal fees. More thank you points means you get more free minutes, more free MBs, more free SMSs, and more free Momo Pay shopping. To use your thank you points, dial star 141 hash.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Was launched in 2009 by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and he was focusing on secondary schools to make sure that we develop a generation among the youth that is patriotic and is ready to serve and to sacrifice for their country.
Good enough, the president had a policy document. He went around, he met teachers. So when he appointed me to be in charge of the secretariat, the work was clear. Ensure you bring the teachers on board because they are the ones who ordinarily most of the time are with the young people.
As a patriot, I joined the Patriotic Club in 2018 when I had just joined the Mighty College, Trinity College, Nabingo, and each of us that joined that year, we had to undergo that exercise. I learned a lot of things because I was also given the responsibility to lead the parade by then. As young as I was, we were with Form 1s and Form 5s, but I made an effort to take it through.
There are some core values that we cherish as a country. Okay. The core values, hard work, the core values of time management. Do you respect the environment?
Integrity.
Are you united as a community, or you are promoting those divisions that we don't encourage?
One of the values of patriotism is love, sacrifice, obedience, and very many things we do for our country.
Patriotism taught me to be a responsible person, someone that carries myself with integrity, with pride of who I am.
It motivates you, it teaches you to learn, to love anything surrounding you. Uganda is not just a name.
I've learned many values from it, and one of them is love, there is discipline, respect, hard work, and keeping time.
I have learned virtues of love, respect, integrity, and loving one another.
Are you clean? Do you encourage your people to remain clean?
Yes.
Are you responsible? Do you respect public property? Do you respect yourself as a human being?
Sure.
In the offices where you are, is there integrity? At your workplace, are you honest enough? All those are core values of patriotism.
The best things that I learned are, at the end of it all, when you're patriotic, you can become successful and you can prosper in life.
These virtues have helped me in my roles of leadership.
Before joining patriotism, I didn't have love for the nation. I didn't have love for my country, Uganda. But then, after becoming a patriot, I love Uganda. I love others and myself.
Be patriotic, Uganda first. This message is brought to you by the National Secretariat for Patriotism Co Uganda, Office of the President.
Mohamed Salah, Naby Keita, Kalidou Koulibaly, Sadio Mane, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. When you hear these names, you may think you're probably watching the English Premier League or UEFA Champions League, but it's It's none of those. It's the 2021 Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations from 9th January to February 6, 2022. All these global elite football stars will be in Cameroon to grace the continent's most prestigious sporting event. 52 games, 24 countries, 1 continent, 1 trophy, 1 station, live, free and exclusive to your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Raising voices.
I feel happy when my mother spends time with me. I hope all mothers will like my mother. I want my mother to reach out to all mothers. She knows how important it is to be a good mother. I promise to help my mother inspire other mothers to change.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
She has purpura spots. The urinalysis is out, showing protein urea and cylindruria. I'm still waiting for the antibody test results.
Are you suspecting purpura abdominalis?
Her grandma said she has purpura abdominalis.
Yes, she does have it.
Dr. Yuan, take her upstairs for an air enema. I'll go over her condition with her grandma.
Okay.
Young
Hey,
Yu,
kiddo.
give Dr.
I'll
Yuan
take you
a hand.
upstairs for treatment, okay? Don't you worry.
Go with Uncle Doctor. Grandma will be there soon, all right?
Come, careful.
You said you were too busy the day before yesterday, and you said you were busy yesterday. How much money must you make? I'm hospitalized. Doctor says it's quite serious.
Dr. Yuan, is this the kid from A&E?
Yeah, she just came in. We're taking her for an air enema. What about you?
Just doing checkups.
Okay, go on then.
Okay.
Mommy! Mommy! Mommy!
Ling Ling, we'll be there in 30 minutes. Don't worry, I've been really busy lately and can't get away, but Ling Ling, I got some good news. Real good news for you. Zheng Yanhao has already signed the divorce papers. So I think that in that case, we can get registered before our baby is born.
I saw my mommy!
Yushi, stay still. Let go. Let go, Yushi. Yushi?
I want my mommy!
Be good, Yushi. Listen to me.
No,
Let's get you treated, okay? Stay still, Yushi.
I want my mommy!
You're mistaken. That wasn't your mom.
I haven't. She's my mommy!
It was 6 months ago. She had a stomachache. We thought it was